Hey there, welcome back to Oversea Ghosts. I'm Blackmond. The story I'm sharing today comes from Thailand, a chilling tale about 5 friends who dodged the military draft and thought they were celebrating their freedom. Spoiler, something followed them home. If you love ghost stories that'll keep you up at night, hit that like button, share with a friend, and subscribe so you never miss a haunting. Let me take you back 9 years to April 2017. At that time, let's call him Nick, was 19 years old, about to turn 20, which meant he was facing the military draft. His close-knit group consisted of 4 friends, all around the same age. Including Nick, there were 5 of them. They all had to report for the conscription lottery in their respective hometowns. His 4 friends drew their lots on April 1st because all of them were in the Samut Prakan area, a province just southeast of Bangkok known for its industrial zones and coastal communities. Nick himself drew his on April 2nd because he had to travel back to his home province, Sa Kaeo, a rural northeastern province bordering Cambodia. So all his friends knew their draft results before he went to draw his. Fortunately, all 4 friends drew the black card, the card that meant exemption from service. They texted him to show off, teasing him. "Hey, I got the black card, I'm safe. Hey, watch out, Nick, you're definitely getting the red card, the one that means conscription. What do you want for your first day in uniform? I'll buy it for you." When the second arrived, the day he had to go draw his lot, he quickly texted his friends to tell them the result of his draft lottery. It turned out he also drew the black card, just like all his friends. His friends were all very happy that the entire group of 5 had escaped conscription. They then thought, okay then, let's go on a trip to another province to celebrate. On the morning of April 3rd, Nick hurriedly traveled back to Samut Prakan. After that, as soon as he arrived, he headed straight to his group of friends first to discuss where they would go to celebrate. The friends talked about where they wanted to go. "Let's go somewhere nearby." One friend, let's call him Blake, suggested, "How about going to Kanchanaburi? It's nearby, not far from Samut Prakan at all." Kanchanaburi, a province famous worldwide for the bridge over the River Kwai and its dark World War II history, is also notorious in Thai folklore for being haunted. The sight of so much death and suffering has made it a place where locals believe spirits roam freely. Nick himself and the other friends agreed with this plan. They concluded that they would go rafting on the upcoming April 5th. For the trip, they would all leave Samut Prakan together in the early morning to arrive in Kanchanaburi province around dawn. For this trip, the group of 5 would go. Nick, let's call the second friend Eric, let's call the third Todd, and the 2 friends who were twins, named, let's call them Ben and Blake. They all gathered at Ben and Blake's house on April 5th around midnight. They met up, and by the time they finished getting ready, they departed at exactly 1 a.m. The 5 of them drove a pickup truck, putting all their luggage and belongings in the back. About 30 minutes after driving out of Ben and Blake's house, it started raining very heavily. Throughout the journey from Samut Prakan to Kanchanaburi, there was heavy rain the whole way. Fortunately, everyone's bags were the waterproof rolling kind, and they also had a tarp covering them, so the inside of the bags didn't get wet. But the journey was quite difficult because the rain was so heavy they had to drive slowly and cautiously. Along the way, there were about 3 or 4 accidents they passed, and at some spots the accident had just happened and the scene hadn't even been cleared yet. They drove past wreckage almost the entire route. Whenever they encountered an accident site, they would be stuck on the road for dozens of minutes. From their plan to arrive in Kanchanaburi around 6 a.m., they ended up being about 2 hours late. They drove into the town area around 8-something a.m. Fortunately, by then in Kanchanaburi, the rain had stopped. The sky was clear and sunny. You could say the weather was perfect for a trip. With no rain, they could follow their original plan. After arriving in town, they drove around buying food and drinks before continuing on to the dam. They had already booked a floating raft, a pei, as Thais call it, a traditional bamboo raft house moored along the river, often used for overnight stays where tourists can eat, drink, and sleep right on the water. Along the way, they stopped to eat, visited various spots, and paid respects at temples until they reached the raft they had booked around 11 a.m. The raft they booked was a small private one combined bedroom, one small bathroom, and a sitting area outside where they could sit, eat, and drink. The overall condition was okay. Since they arrived a bit early, they asked to board the raft ahead of time. Fortunately, the raft owner was kind and let them board early. Then the owner towed their raft and moored it by the shore near the dam. They partied and had fun from morning until evening. Around 10 p.m., one of his friends, Todd, asked to go to sleep because he couldn't drink anymore. So the ones still sitting, drinking, and eating were reduced to 4 people: Nick, Eric, Ben, and Blake. They continued sitting, drinking, and socializing. After a while, Blake got up to go to the bathroom. Not long after, Nick himself felt a strong urge to urinate, so he also got up to go to the bathroom. Since there was only one bathroom, he had to wait for Blake to finish before he could go in. At that moment, he shouted to Blake from in front of the bathroom, "Blake, have you finished? Hey, Blake, I really need to go." Blake shouted back, "I'm not done yet. Go pee on the shore over there. The raft is parked close by. Just jump up." When Blake said that, Nick turned to look outside. Up on the shore where the raft was moored, it was dirt, forest, grass. He couldn't make out details in the darkness, but since he really needed to relieve himself, he decided to jump from their raft onto the shore. His friends, who were still sitting, eating, and drinking, shouted out, Hey, where are you going? Where are you going?" He told his friends, "I can't take it anymore. I can't wait for Blake to finish. I really need to go. I'm going up there first. I'll be back. Ben, who was sitting with them, shouted back jokingly, "Be careful not to get haunted by a pea," the Thai word for spirit or ghost, a concept deeply embedded in Thai culture, where ghosts are not merely supernatural curiosities, but real dangerous entities that can harm the living. Grinning, Ben continued, "But if you meet one, invite the spirit to come sit and drink with us too." Ben said this on purpose to scare him, because as everyone knows, Kanchanaburi province is quite famous for its spirits and ghosts. Nick replied to his friends, "Okay, I'll call one to come drink with us. Before hurrying off to the bathroom up on the shore. The atmosphere up there was quite dark and eerie. Even though there were some lights on, it wasn't very bright. The area around the bathroom seemed to be the brightest spot. The atmosphere was pretty scary. The bathroom was located relative to the raft they were on. It wasn't that far, but because he really needed to go, he had to go up to the bathroom on the shore. As Blake was taking a long time and showed no signs of coming out, he didn't dare just go anywhere, like aiming at the trees or bushes from the raft. He just knew there was a bathroom up there, because before they got on the raft, the owner had explained everything, where the raft would be moored, that there was a bathroom up there, and so on. So he knew there was a bathroom up there, which is why he hurried up to use it instead, even though the atmosphere was unsettling. But since he wasn't afraid of spirits, he didn't feel the atmosphere could do anything to him. He walked, turned on his flashlight, and went to the bathroom normally. The bathroom didn't seem to have anything special. Next to it was a low wall, and beyond that was an open area with nothing there. He stood, relieving himself as usual, then turned to look at that open area. That's when he saw, about 10 or 20 meters away from the bathroom, a person standing. He couldn't see details clearly because it was quite far and dark, but it was clearly a person, about 160 centimeters tall, standing perfectly still. Curious, he looked at that figure for a while, thinking it might be a caretaker or someone who came out to smoke or do something, until he finished his business, zipped up his pants, and looked up to glance at where that person was standing again. He was shocked stiff. When he looked back, that figure was still standing there, but the person's head was gone. There was only the neck, shoulders, arms, torso, and legs standing motionless in the open field. This was the first time he had ever been this terrified. Once he regained his composure, he ran back to the raft, but he didn't tell anyone about what he had encountered. After getting back to the raft, he just downed liquor and beer non-stop. His friends were surprised and teased him. "Why are you suddenly drinking so heavily? Did a spirit scare you or what? Are you crazy, Nick? Are you trying to get so drunk you'll pass out and not know anything?" He didn't reply to his friends. He just sat there drinking, thinking to himself that what people said about this place having fierce spirits must be true. Even he, who had no sixth sense and had never encountered a spirit before, had met one here. And that wasn't the end of it. About half an hour later, suddenly, Todd, who had previously asked to go to sleep, walked out of the bedroom with a frustrated expression. He came to the group and said, "Hey, are you guys trying to shake the raft apart or what? I'm trying to sleep." The four people sitting and drinking, including Nick, quickly turned to look at him, then looked back at each other. Ben quickly replied, "Shake the raft? What are you talking about? We're just sitting here drinking quietly, not doing anything. You must be really drunk, Todd." Todd looked confused, then walked back into the bedroom, scratching his head. After Todd went back to sleep, the friends talked amongst themselves. Todd must be really drunk to wake up from sleeping and start yelling like that. But Nick didn't think that. He thought Todd must have definitely encountered what he had encountered. That night, they went to sleep around 3 or 4 a.m. Some were still asleep outside, but Nick was afraid of encountering something strange again, so he decided to go back to sleep in the bedroom, even though there was only one room. That night, Nick himself slept soundly and didn't encounter anything at all. The next morning, they had to travel back to Samut Prakan. When they woke up, none of the friends mentioned seeing anything strange. Everyone said, "Hey, I slept fine. Didn't see anything. I slept well." So Nick decided not to tell his friends about what he had seen when he went to the bathroom. At that moment, he even started to doubt himself, thinking maybe he was just drunk and his eyes had played tricks on him. He didn't dwell on it. After packing up and finishing everything, the 5 of them came down from the dam around noon. They thought they still had time to sightsee, so Nick asked his friends, "Should we go visit other places?" Todd replied, "I want to go walk on the bridge over the River Kwai, the famous steel bridge built by prisoners of war during World War II, a site of immense suffering, where thousands died constructing the death railway under Japanese occupation." So they traveled from the raft to the bridge over the River Kwai. They arrived around 1 p.m. or so. The sun was still very hot, so Nick didn't really want to go to the bridge. The other friends discussed, "We're here. Are we really not going to go down?" At that time, Nick and another friend said something like, "It's too hot. Let's go somewhere else first, and when the sun goes down, we can come back." Some friends said, "Just go down. We can use umbrellas." But the majority opinion that day seemed to be, "Let's go for a drive first, and when the sun is lower, we'll come back and walk." So they drove away from the bridge over the River Kwai and drove around in the town, passing by cemeteries in various places. When they felt the sun was starting to go down, they drove back to the bridge over the River Kwai again. When they arrived, the sun was down, the wind was blowing, and they walked around on the bridge taking pictures. Everyone was having a great time, enjoying themselves thoroughly. As it started to get dark, they drove to buy food at a night market in that area, then began their journey back to Samut Prakan. They were walking around buying food at the market, probably around 9 p.m. or so. Then they all drove out of Kanchanaburi province to head back to their homes in Samut Prakan. On the way back, Nick was driving for his friends. Actually, they should have arrived in Samut Prakan that night. But after driving for about a half hour, not even out of Kanchanaburi yet, Nick felt incredibly sleepy. His eyes could hardly stay open. He turned to ask his friends, "Can anyone take over driving for me?" But no one could drive. Everyone's condition was no different from his, extremely sleepy, as if they had taken sleeping pills. Ben spoke up, "Nick, find a resort to sleep at. I think we should drive back tomorrow morning." The others agreed. Yeah, Nick, find one. I can't go on. If I drove, I'd be just as sleepy." Then everyone, struggling to keep their eyes open, helped look for a roadside resort in that area. Eventually, they found a resort with a sign out front saying they had rooms available. They turned in immediately. This resort was a small one, like a family-run place. There weren't many rooms. From the outside, it looked quite old, and there wasn't a single other guest's car. They didn't think much of it, as they just needed a place to sleep for the night and would leave in the morning. Nick saw the parking lot was an empty field. They all got out of the car to find the resort owner. Immediately, an elderly woman walked up and asked them, "Are you interested in a room, dears? Rooms are available, 400 baht per unit." Nick asked the woman, "Grandma, 5 people, can we get 2 rooms?" "Oh, and the woman in the car, isn't she staying with you, dears? That's 6 people. Just get 3 rooms, 2 per room, not cramped." At this, they all looked at each other confused. Ben replied to the woman, Grandma, there are only 5 of us, Grandma." The woman paused for a moment, then didn't say anything more about it, acting as if nothing had just happened. She just said, Oh, okay, 2 rooms, right? Go on, I'll open the rooms for you, dears." Then the woman walked to open the rooms for them. They carried their bags from the back of the truck. When they went to get the bags, Ben was the first to reach the car. He opened the door and then spoke to the empty space inside the car. "Wherever you came from, you go back to your place. We're going home. Don't follow us." The other 4 heard what Ben said and couldn't help but laugh, thinking, is Ben really chasing away spirits like that? At that moment, none of them were scared or startled by anything like this. They all acted very normal. Nick himself thought that after Ben said that, there probably wouldn't be anything else. But after they carried their bags down, they divided the rooms. Nick himself would sleep with Eric, 2 of them. The other room would have 3 people, Todd, Ben, and Blake. After dividing the rooms, they separated to their own rooms. When Nick got to the room, he decided to shower first. After showering, he quickly lay down to sleep because he was very tired. At first, as he was falling asleep but not yet fully asleep, his ears could still hear various sounds around him. At that moment, he heard a sound like someone turning on the shower and bathing. The image in his head was that Eric must be about to shower. So he listened to the sound of the shower running as he fell asleep without thinking anything of it before he drifted off. He then woke up around 11 p.m. When he woke up this time, he heard people talking outside the room. It was a low murmur of conversation with some laughter at certain points. He slowly opened his eyes and looked inside the room. The first thing he saw was that Eric wasn't there. He opened his eyes and Eric wasn't in the room. He decided to get up and look outside. When he opened the door, he saw his 4 friends sitting, eating, and drinking merrily. He was quite angry and said, "Aren't you guys going to sleep? Weren't you all sleepy?" Todd replied, Just couldn't sleep, so we decided to have a little drinking session." Nick nodded. Then he looked at Eric and saw that Eric was still wearing the same clothes. So he asked Eric, "Eric, you showered. Why are you still wearing the same clothes?" Eric looked confused and replied, "I haven't showered yet, man. I took my bag into the room and then came out to sit with these guys." When his friend answered like that, Nick stood there thinking for many seconds. The sound of water he heard. Then who was that bathing? Finally, he concluded to himself that he must have been dreaming. It was during that semi-conscious state, not fully alert. Then he joined the circle with his friends, drinking until 2 a.m. Then they all separated to go to their bedrooms. He and Eric lay down immediately and fell asleep. But not long after he fell asleep, he had a dream. He remembered this dream vividly because it felt so real. He dreamed that he was sleeping in this very room. After a while, a woman he didn't know and had never seen before walked out of the bathroom and stopped at the foot of the bed. Then she shouted at him, How dare you chase me away? It's you who has to go." In the dream, he shouted back, "I'm not going." Then that woman used her hands to break her own neck towards her right shoulder, and her face began to change. Her eyes, nose, mouth started to seep red blood. Her face was filled with rage. Then she jumped on top of him, straddling him, and shouted at him in his face again, "I told you to go and die." Just that, and he jolted awake, gasping for breath. His body was drenched in sweat as if he had just run a marathon. He turned his head to look at Eric, and he saw that Eric was also lying there with his eyes open. Moreover, his expression looked startled, as if he had encountered something. He turned to look at Eric, and Eric turned back to look at him, but they didn't say anything. Then they both got up and went to sit in the car. Once they were in the car, after a little while, Eric asked him, nervously, "Hey Nick, did you have a strange dream?" He nodded and told Eric what he had dreamed about. After he finished telling it, Eric looked shocked and said he had dreamed the same thing. A woman walked out of the bathroom, shouted at him to go and die. The two of them talked about what to do next. Having been cursed at like that, Eric checked the time and said it was past 5 a.m. Decisively, "We don't need to go back inside. Let's wait until morning and then go get our bags all at once." They stayed in the car until 6 a.m. when the sky started to lighten. At that moment, their only thought was that the spirit they saw in the dream was definitely in the resort, in that bathroom. They were too afraid to go back inside. They stayed in the car until 6 a.m. When morning came, they went to knock on the door of the other three friends in the other room, telling them to hurry up, shower, and get ready to travel back. Blake saw them knocking on the door so early and asked, "Are you guys already finished showering and packing?" Nick replied directly, "Not yet. We got haunted by a spirit last night, so we haven't gone back into the room yet." Ben and Blake heard that and were shocked, because they had slept comfortably and hadn't encountered anything. They volunteered, "Okay, I'll go get your stuff for you. You can come shower in our room." Ben and Blake went into the other room to gather their belongings and brought them to this room. After that, Nick and Eric showered in that room. At the moment Nick was about to open his bag to get clothes to shower, Blake spoke up to Nick and Eric. Blake said, "You two, why don't you take off your shoes and stuff properly before sleeping? There's dirt and mud all over the bed. You made the room dirty like this, the owner will scold us." At the moment Nick was unzipping his bag to get clothes, he looked up at Blake, confused. "What? Mud? Dirt? What are you talking about?" He was completely confused. Blake explained that when he opened the door to get their stuff, he saw muddy footprints, like they were stained with mud, about 3 or 4 near the front of the room. And he saw that there were these muddy footprints all over the room, making it dirty and messy. Nick and Eric looked at each other before saying, "We didn't step in any mud. We didn't get dirty like that at all." At that moment, Blake said, Come, follow me. Come look." Nick and Eric walked to the room they had slept in the night before. They opened the door and went in, and it was true. There really were muddy footprints there. But when they placed their own feet against them, those footprints were smaller than their feet by about 3 or 4 sizes. Eric tried measuring with his foot too. Sure enough, the footprints were smaller than Eric's foot. When Blake saw that, he wasn't scared or frightened at all. Instead, he got even more excited. He said, "So you're telling me these are ghost footprints? Fucking awesome." Blake said this, then continued defiantly, "If there really is one, and it comes to haunt me, I want to see it for real." As if that wasn't enough, Ben added, "Come in a good-looking form. Don't come in a bad form. Come in a good-looking form, and I'll make you my wife." The twins, Ben and Blake, mocked and laughed, finding it funny. Nick and Eric just stood there watching them talk with slightly grim expressions. Normally, in the group, they were called the Demon Twins. They were the ones with the sharp tongues, always talking like that. So Nick was used to it. Especially with matters of spirits, they never were afraid and always liked to talk defiantly. But they had never actually encountered anything serious. After that, Nick and Eric went back to their room just as their friend Todd finished showering. When Todd saw them walking back, he asked, "Hey, where have you been?" Blake answered for them. These two got tricked by a spirit. Todd then asked, jokingly, "A female spirit or a male one?" Eric replied, "A female spirit. Damn scary." When Todd heard that, it wasn't that he felt scared like Nick and Eric had. He just joked again. "Oh good, if it's a female spirit, come stay with me, little sister. Come be my wife." And so it continued as before. No one stopped them. They were used to their friends talking like that. After that, they got ready, showered, and finished up in their friend's room. Once everything was done, they traveled back to Samut Prakan with Nick driving as before. The drive back wasn't very smooth. Several times, other cars seemed to almost sideswipe them, as if they didn't see their car, forcing them to swerve out of the way repeatedly. Nick started to get frustrated. They drove until Ratchaburi, a province known for its floating markets and sweet palm sugar. At that point, a strange smell started inside the car. It was like a burning smell. Nick quickly told his friends, alarmed, "Hey, I smell something burning. Do you guys smell it?" All his friends smelled the burning too. They decided to drive into a nearby garage to have a mechanic check it out, just to be sure nothing was wrong with the car. It turned out the burning smell was from the clutch. Before their turn for repairs, the mechanic came to look at the car. He walked around their car, then came over to talk to them, casually. "Hey kids, come here. Tell the young lady to get out of the car for a bit. I'll take a look. It might take a while." Nick was taken aback, then quickly told the mechanic, correcting, "Sir, there are only 5 of us here, sir. There's no woman." When he said that, the mechanic stood still for a moment, then laughed and said, nervously, "Oh, I'm just joking. Nothing. I just haven't had my coffee today. A bit out of it." Then the mechanic excused himself to look at the car again. They were in a bit of a bad mood. Having the mechanic greet them like that just made them more annoyed. His friends grumbled, irritably, "What else is this spirit going to follow us with? Is it going to follow us all the way home? Wherever it's going, just go. I'll curse it out." After grumbling for a while, they all left the car and went to a nearby cafe to wait for the repairs to finish. They found a place to sit and pass the time. It took quite a while for the garage to change the clutch, about 5 hours. During that time, no one was really thinking about spirits or anything. Their minds were just on getting home or whether to continue sightseeing in Ratchaburi. When the sky started to change color, they remembered they should hurry back home. This time, Ben and Blake asked to sit in the back of the pickup truck. They wanted to smoke. The remaining friends sat inside the car. Nick saw that it wasn't sunny anymore, so he didn't say anything and let them sit in the back. He drove on and on, from Ratchaburi until they entered Samut Prakan province. Nick needed to use the restroom, so he stopped to rest at a gas station. After he finished his business, he walked back to the car. At that moment, he saw a woman sitting in the back of the truck. She was sitting with Ben and Blake. Let him explain the seating position so you understand what Nick saw. His 2 friends were sitting with their backs against the truck, facing out towards the road, leaning against the rear window with their feet pointing towards the tailgate. This woman was sitting opposite the 2 friends. Her posture was, her head was tilted towards her right shoulder, and she was looking down. Nick didn't pay any attention. As he walked back, he only saw Ben and Blake sitting there, so he walked over and told Ben and Blake, "You two better come sit in the front." But the 2 of them refused, stubbornly. "No, we want to sit in the back. We want to smoke." So Nick just said, Okay, whatever you want." But he didn't tell them what he had just seen. After that, they arrived at Ben and Blake's house. Nick and his other friends then separated to go to their own homes. Time passed. Everyone lived their normal lives. After that trip to Kanchanaburi, if you asked if they encountered anything strange, they hadn't encountered anything truly scary yet. So much so that Nick and his friends completely forgot about the spirit. They just went on with their lives, and that should have been the end of it. Everyone went their separate ways, living their lives, and the spirit encounter in Kanchanaburi would have just been a fun story to tell when they got together, right? But no. In reality, what they had encountered during that trip to Kanchanaburi was just the tip of the iceberg. After the trip, everyone lived their lives until the Songkran festival period, the Thai New Year celebration in mid-April, the most important traditional festival in Thailand, marked by water fights, family gatherings, and religious ceremonies. On April 13th, his friend group planned to go play in the water together. The events were very normal. They had fun playing in the water from morning until evening. When the sky started to get dark, they all separated. That day, after finishing playing in the water, Nick was riding his motorcycle home. As he was about to turn right into his alley, he looked in his side mirror to see if there were cars behind him. But when he turned to look in the mirror, what he saw wasn't a car following him. It was a woman with no eyeballs, just hollow eye sockets, sitting with her neck broken and tilted to one side, riding pillion behind him. But he only saw it for a split second. When he looked again, she was gone. The first second he saw it, he was very scared, but then he started to doubt himself. Did he really see it, or was it just his imagination? Because he really only saw it for a split second. Finally, he concluded to himself that it was probably nothing. Maybe he was a bit hazy from the beer and liquor he had drunk. He rode his bike and turned into the alley. Before reaching the room he rented, he had to pass the houses of his other friends. One friend, let's call him Gus, happened to be standing smoking in front of his house. When he saw his bike, normally he would just smile and nod, but this time he teased him, playfully. Huh? Nick smiled back, confused about what he was teasing him about before he rode past. The next day, April 14th, they went out to play in the water with friends again as usual. When evening came, they separated like yesterday. But today, at 9 p.m., they had plans to go eat and celebrate further at Todd's house. After finishing playing in the water, they hurriedly drove back to their rooms to shower and dress up. They planned to look handsome to go drink at Todd's house, hoping their friends might bring some girls. As Nick was riding back, he coincidentally saw Gus standing smoking in front of his house. He smiled and greeted him, but Gus didn't smile back. He had a blank expression and just watched Nick ride past. When he got back to his room, he quickly showered and got ready. As he was walking out of the room to get dressed, he saw that his door was opening by itself. It was like there was a strong wind from outside pushing it, and the door slowly opened. Seeing the door ajar in front of him, he walked over, closed it, and locked it before going back to get dressed. A little while later, there was a creaking sound, like the sound of the door slowly being pushed open, and the door was ajar again, even though he had just locked it. So Nick walked over to peek outside to see if someone was messing with him. But when he stuck his head out, he didn't see anyone. There was no strong wind either. At the moment he turned his head back inside, he got the shock of his life. Inside the room, just a few inches away from him, stood a woman with a broken neck, eyeballs missing, and deformed arms and legs. When he saw that, he thought, "This time my eyes are definitely not playing tricks on me." What he saw now made him quite sure that his eyes hadn't been playing tricks on him the previous days. This woman he saw her in the same form, had seen her in this form many times and could recognize her. He thought back to the day he was haunted at the resort. It was vaguely similar. That female spirit's appearance was like this too. After seeing that, he was in shock. He quickly closed his eyes. At that moment, he was kind of bracing himself. When he closed his eyes, what would that woman do to him? Would she haunt him, shout at him, or do something to scare him? But when he closed his eyes, he just found emptiness. When he opened his eyes, the woman was gone. He quickly finished dressing and then went outside to stand and smoke, afraid that if he stayed in the room, he would encounter something again. After smoking for a while, Gus walked over to his room. Normally, Gus would come chat with him anyway, as Gus's house wasn't far from his room. When Gus arrived, he immediately teased him. "Hey, you've been bringing a girl to your room for 2 days now, buddy. Where's the girl from? Very pretty. But today, did you get the girl drunk? Why was she sitting with her neck all bent? I saw her and was afraid she'd fall off the bike for you." When Nick heard Gus's teasing, he couldn't help but get goosebumps. He quickly told Gus, "Gus, you saw her? But for these 2 days, I haven't brought anyone with me, man." Gus argued that he really did see her. Nick insisted that he hadn't brought anyone. When Gus saw his expression and he was speaking so seriously, Gus was shocked and couldn't say anything for a moment. Then Gus told him, Okay, wait for me. I'll be right back. I'm just going home for a bit." Gus hurried home. As for Nick, after Gus left, he quickly rode his motorcycle straight to Todd's house. He was now sure that a spirit had definitely followed them back from the Kanchanaburi trip. When he rode to Todd's house, all his friends were already there, setting up a drinking circle and having fun. Just after he arrived, he asked to join them. After he had been sitting and drinking for a while, he brought up the subject. "Hey, I think it followed us back." Then he began to tell them everything that had happened, from the drive back from Kanchanaburi up to what he had just encountered that evening, fresh and vivid. After he finished telling them, he thought his friends would surely say he was imagining things, but no. Each of their expressions was noticeably still, and what was even more shocking was that all 4 friends told him they had also experienced strange events. The 4 friends began to tell him what each of them had encountered. The twins, Ben and Blake, said that since they got back, late at night there would be dogs howling every day. The dogs would howl in succession from the entrance of the village all the way to in front of their house. Sometimes someone would come and knock on their door late at night, but when they opened the window to look, they wouldn't see anyone. As for Todd and Eric, they had similar experiences. In the middle of the night, someone would often come and pound on their bedroom door. Some days, no one was home, but there would still be the sound of pounding on the door. After hearing all this, Nick thought that his friends who were telling him this must have definitely encountered something strange, because even he himself had. At that time, if you asked if they were afraid of this spirit, they would say they weren't afraid to the point of having to seek protection. It was like if a spirit came to haunt them in a scary way, they'd be startled, but they thought it was probably just a typical spirit that would go away if they made merit. Tambun, the Thai Buddhist practice of making merit through donations, temple visits, and good deeds to improve one's karma. What they had encountered wasn't at the level of appearing clearly, just a few sounds here and there, so they weren't overly afraid. After finishing talking about this, they didn't continue discussing the spirit that followed them from Kanchanaburi. They didn't consult each other about what to do or how to chase it away. It was like they were going to let it go, let the matter resolve on its own. Then everyone started talking about other things. Time passed until around midnight. While everyone was drinking merrily, the atmosphere was just right. Then there was a pounding sound on the door of the room. Thump, thump, thump. All the friends turned towards the door and started looking at each other uncertainly. But Todd spoke up. "Don't be scared. It's like this every night at the same time. Nothing to worry about. It's like I told you guys. There will be a thumping sound." Then Todd would turn and shout at the door, "Okay, I believe you now. You exist." And that night, there were no more door-pounding sounds. They finished eating and drinking, then separated to go home. Nothing else happened until April 16th. They had planned to go to the Wan Lai festival in Bang Sen, Wan Lai being the traditional name for the final day of Songkronic celebrations in certain regions, particularly in Chonburi, where the coastal town of Bang Sen hosts massive water fights and beach parties. They discussed that the 5 of them would ride 4 motorcycles, with the twins Ben and Blake sharing one. That day they traveled to play in the water at the Songkran Wan Lai festival in Bang Sen. It was a lot of fun, so much fun that no one thought anything bad would happen. They played at the festival until about 10 p.m., then they all rode their motorcycles back home. They arrived in Samut Prakan around 11 p.m., almost midnight. When they arrived in Samut Prakan, each person went their separate ways. Nick's rented room was in the same direction as the twins Ben and Blake's house, so the three of them rode back the same way. As they were riding, nearing his room, the twins Ben and Blake shouted to him, "Good luck, man, we're going." Nick nodded to his friends, but in his heart he felt a vague, strange unease. Normally, when they said goodbye, they would say something like, "Okay, see ya," or "see you tomorrow." But something was off. That thought was in his head. Suddenly, a pickup truck came speeding from behind, past the back of his motorcycle, and slammed hard into the motorcycle of Ben and Blake, who were riding in front. The sound of the vehicles colliding was so loud it made his ears ring for a moment. By the time he regained his senses, it was already too late. He quickly rode his motorcycle over to check on his friends at the accident scene. The first thing he saw nearly made him fall over. The image he saw was Blake's body flying and landing on the median strip. His neck was broken, bent to the right. His face was smashed beyond recognition, so he couldn't tell if it was Ben or Blake. As for Ben's body, the pickup truck that hit them had dragged his body for many meters. His arms and legs were broken and deformed. Both of them died instantly at the scene. After seeing his friends' bodies, Nick was in shock and couldn't do anything. He remembered quickly typing a message to tell his other friends, asking them to call the authorities. Soon the rescue workers and his other friends arrived at the scene. The atmosphere was filled with grief. None of them dared to call Ben and Blake's family. This loss was too severe. The family lost their both sons at the same time. Even Nick couldn't accept losing his friends. It was a rescue worker who called their home to inform them. What followed was, of course, filled with sadness. No one thought that this accident had any deeper meaning. Everyone thought it was just an accident, that it was simply the twins' fate. After Ben and Blake's funeral passed, everything returned to normal. Everyone continued with their lives. Time passed until May. At that time, everyone was very busy with their own work. There were no festivals, so Nick and his friends didn't see each other much. But in that seemingly eventless month, bad news came. One day, Todd called him and said, "Nick, Eric died." Todd had received the news from Eric's older sister. Eric's older sister told him what happened. That day, Eric's sister was busy with an errand and couldn't take her child to school, so Eric volunteered to take her niece or nephew instead. Eric rode his motorcycle to take the child to school as usual, around 7-something a.m., which was the same time people were going to work, so traffic was congested. After Eric dropped the child off, he was riding home, weaving through the gaps in the traffic wherever he could. At one point, Eric overtook a car on the left. At that moment, coincidentally, there was a 6-wheeled truck parked ahead, as if it had stopped to buy something at a convenience store. Eric, who was overtaking, crashed into the back of the 6-wheeled truck with force. His skull was crushed, his neck broken. He died instantly at the scene. That evening, Nick and Todd received the news and had to go to Eric's funeral at the temple. In his heart, Nick felt a deep sorrow and couldn't speak. In less than a month, he had lost 3 close friends, all from accidents. His group of 5 friends was now reduced to just him and Todd. They both thought it must just be that their friend's time had come, but they were saddened by how painfully they had left. And of course, they never thought that these losses were related to that spirit at all. After losing all 3 friends, Nick and Todd lived their lives as usual. During that time, Nick himself still occasionally saw that female spirit with the broken neck, maybe just 2 or 3 times. She would appear briefly, just at the corner of his eye. But aside from that, he didn't encounter anything serious. Time passed. 3 years went by. In the year 2020, his parents moved back to Sa Ka province, which was his father's hometown. Nick was an only child, so he had to move back with them. After that, he lived in Sa Ka province. He started to lose touch with his old friends. During the time he moved back to Sa Ka, he had the opportunity to go to the temple and make merit often, because he had to take his parents. Some days his father was busy, so he would take his mother instead. He ended up going to the temple frequently. During this period, he rarely saw that female spirit. He almost forgot about those past encounters until time passed to March 23rd, 2020. One of his friends from Samut Prakan, let's call him Alex, who was also in the same vang but not particularly close, as they rarely had time to drink together because Alex was busy working to support his wife and child, also worked as a rescue volunteer. That day, Alex called him via an app. In 100 years, Alex had never called. They barely even chatted. Nick had a bad feeling. When he answered the call from this friend, it was as he feared. Alex said, "Nick, Todd died this morning." The cause of Todd's death was also an accident. Alex explained that yesterday Todd rode his motorcycle to see his girlfriend in Rongsit, a northern suburb of Bangkok known for its universities, as she was studying there. After dropping her off, he was riding back home, probably late at night. No one knows exactly what happened, but his bike crashed into the back of a trailer truck parked on the roadside. He was severely injured and died at the hospital. This was another time Nick was speechless. The last remaining friend in the group had died in another accident. At that moment, Nick thought this was the worst misfortune of his life, to lose 4 close friends, all to accidents, in such a short span. If he told other people, they would find it hard to believe, but it happened in his real life. After hearing the news, he hurried back to Samut Prakan for Todd's cremation. After the ceremony, he returned to Saw Khao and continued living. Time passed. He tried to live carefully and not be reckless. 1 month later, that day was April 10th, around 2 p.m. While Nick was lying down at home, he felt very hungry. He thought he would ride his motorcycle out to get something to eat at a convenience store. He rode as usual until he reached a traffic light intersection. His bike stopped at a red light. At that moment, his was the only vehicle stopped there. While waiting for the red light countdown, suddenly, he had a feeling like someone was hugging him around the waist from behind, like a woman riding pillion and hugging him tightly. He could sense that someone was playfully hugging him from behind. He quickly turned around, and what he saw was a woman, the same woman he had seen many years ago, with her neck broken. This woman was sitting on the back of his bike, her neck broken, just like before. After that, this woman slowly gave him a sinister smile. Then his vision cut to black. And the vision cutting wasn't because he was so scared he fainted and fell off his bike in the middle of the intersection. The vision cut because he was hit by a car. At that moment, Nick, the owner of this story, regained consciousness later in the hospital. He was in pain all over, from head to toe. He couldn't move at all. He could feel that his arms, legs, and neck were in splints. He tried to glance up from the bed and saw his mother sitting by his bedside, watching over him. He called out to his mother. Then he asked his mother what had happened, why he was here. His mother told him that he had been hit from behind by a sedan at that traffic light intersection. The person who hit him was a senior colleague from his own workplace. His condition wasn't critical. No internal organs were affected. He was stable, just with broken arms and legs, a fractured bone, and a head wound. He had to wear a neck brace. The next day, the senior colleague who hit him came to visit him at the hospital. He brought a large fruit basket and apologized profusely. He explained how the accident happened that day. He said, "Hey Nick, I'm really sorry. If I tell you this, you might not believe it, but that day I really didn't see you. I saw nothing in front of my car. The road was empty, so I intended to just drive and stop at that red light." When Nick heard what the senior said, he felt like he wouldn't believe it either. How could he not see him sitting there astride his bike? But after losing all 4 of his friends in similar accidents, plus the last image he saw before his vision cut, he believed that the senior probably truly didn't see his bike stopped at the red light. What this person said was probably true. But what was more shocking didn't end there. After the senior finished explaining, he asked, "Hey Nick, did you do something or what? Because before I walked over to your bed, I saw a woman standing smiling next to your bed. But when I looked again, I didn't see her. Where did she go?" Nick himself replied to the senior, Just a trick of the light, sir. But in his heart at that moment, it sunk. It was like everything was just being revealed now that this had happened to him personally. The truth was the female spirit that had followed them from Kanchanaburi wanted to take his life. This time it failed to take his life, but next time it surely would take his life. And without a doubt, the accidents of his 4 friends before were probably also because of this same spirit. When Nick started to connect all the dots throughout his treatment at the hospital, he asked his mother to go make merit for him. His savings were spent on the temple and making merit. When he recovered enough to leave the hospital, he immediately decided to shave his head and ordain as a monk, a traditional Thai Buddhist practice where men temporarily enter the monkhood, often to make merit for themselves or deceased relatives, wearing saffron robes and following monastic precepts for a period of time. He intended to dedicate the merit to that spirit, praying for everything to end, for no more vengeance or grudges. From that point on, things seemed to ease. He didn't see that woman anymore, and people around him no longer mentioned seeing anyone with him. Most importantly, Nick himself is still alive today. If he could go back in time and change things, he would want to cancel that Kanchanaburi trip, or at the very least, he would have warned his friends not to say such disrespectful things. In the end, speaking defiantly to the unseen. Who knows, maybe his 4 friends would still be alive if they hadn't spoken so defiantly. And that is the experience that Nick, the owner of the story, sent in.